Having all the information when it comes to home ownership can be a challenge. 6 News' Johan Marin is on your side with how one local organization is making the process easier.
At Church on Purpose, faith leaders are following their life mission to help those in need. On Saturday, they welcome different community organizations and businesses to share resources with new home buyers.
Really from beginning to end, from the pre-purchase part of the journey of learning what it takes to really own a home, to then getting connected with the lenders and the mortgage providers, to then on the backside of home ownership.
This is the first time the church has ever held an event like this. Pastor Jonathan Chapman told me their goal is to help fill the home ownership gap in the metro. He says one of the reasons for the gap is the lack of information some may have when they are interested in buying a home.
A lot of people have the perception that a home ownership is, requires $30,000 in your savings account to be able to cover down payment and closing costs, and that's simply not the case. There are programs and various opportunities out there.
Jason Samuel with Thrivent was a part of one of the 11 organizations at this weekend's event. He agrees with Chapman, but added when it comes to owning a home, it's all about asking yourself questions.
Removing the fear of, can I afford this home? Or asking the right question, what is affordable? So that our advisors come alongside and teach them on that affordability question.
Church on Purpose plans to make this event an ongoing thing in the future. And they also expect to invite more businesses and organizations. On your side, I'm Johan Marin, 6 News.
Faith leaders tell us that yesterday's event brought in 60 people.